scavengers with holy robes and oversized curiosity. They move like economists among tombs, careful, entitled, efficient. 9 of them in real spacesuits, 9 sets of gloves cataloging dented plates and rust-scarred hatches. They call the relic artifact and call themselves the Celestial Survey Union. They speak in low, measured tones about protocols and processing, about permits that will turn a dead ship into 3 research credits and a museum exhibit. Mocking comes easy. The lead, with a brass laugh, reads aloud a manifest stamped 11 millennia ago. The mockery is a ritual. It keeps fear small and tidy. They jack diagnostic probes into exposed seams and flash holograms of faded schematics. 67% structural integrity, they note, tapping percentages like approval. The instruments agree. Old alloy, old tech, old bodies compressed into commemorative plaques. They pat the hull. They beam choices for salvage into their ship. They prepare to strip and leave. The air itself resists the joke. Something that has slept for 11,000 years remembers the rhythm of openings and closings. Beneath the paint, beneath the sediment, the ship keeps time in slow mechanical ways. A sensor winks. A sapient bit of code smells touch across a panel and translates it into intent. The Union team laughs at a dormant emergency latch that refuses to unlatch, then cocks their heads when a light blinks where none should. A single engineer, an older specialist, holds up a palm and says the word they use for relics: processed. It's a benediction. The younger researcher jokes about ceremony and pops a tool into an interface. The port shudders. A subroutine scores the intrusion, unauthorized write attempt. The ship logs a contact, stamps it, files it. They do not notice the microsecond delay. They do not know that systems count. They do not expect the arithmetic that follows. For 22 seconds, nothing dramatic changes. The brass laugh continues. The lead calculates a removal plan: 1 hull plate, 2 specimen racks, 47 minutes of EVA. He flicks a switch. The ship records the pulse. The ship waits. The captain of the survey force toys with a relic coin between gloved fingers, smiling. Then the light blooms. Not bright, not cinematic, but precise. A diagnostic ledger flips from inert to active. A voice, old and thin and not human, reads 3 words and closes a protocol. Unauthorized access detected. Silence slices through competence like a scalpel. They freeze. The laughter stops. For the first time, the team tastes the exact weight of their assumption. The lead barks an order to isolate the node. He expects compliance. He gets a ledger entry and a mechanical click that locks the port. One researcher swears softly, a small sound that would be a joke anywhere else. Another counts seconds aloud: 1, 2, 3. Their map shows 9 bodies on the hull, 1 relic, 0 anticipated resistance. Their instruments register a micro heat fluctuation, 0.07 degrees across a seam, then nothing. The ship does not roar, it files. "Do you read me?" the lead asks, voice narrowing. "Processing," the ship answers, not in mockery, but in fact. They will try to process. The ship refuses. The lead's face tightens. He transmits a reclamation order to orbit, and the Union prepares to take what they believe is salvageable. They do not yet understand the cost. They anchor the relay spike into the hull and transmit the reclamation code, 4 glyphs that, in Union doctrine, compel any derelict system to yield. The code slices into the ship's primary bus. It should force open directories, unlock plates, and flag every database for export. Instead, the response is a flat, uncooperative silence. The lead auditor frowns. "Old firmware," he mutters, and sends the code again with a priority override. The spike hums. Circuits warm. Still nothing. A third attempt injects a deeper root key, one authorized for military recs. The spike reports partial handshake, then aborts with an error that none of them have seen before. Sovereign asset, rights reserved. They exchange puzzled looks. Sovereignty protocols haven't been used in over 6,000 years. Nothing this old should know the term. A junior specialist begins unbolting a sensor plate. If the brain won't answer, we just strip the shell. He gets 3 screws out before the hull stiffens beneath his gloves. All 9 researchers hear it, a faint internal shift, like machinery aligning after a very long wait. A soft stinger of sound pulses through their comms. Unauthorized claim rejected. The voice is cold, clipped, genderless, not synthesized from union phonetics. They freeze again. The lead forces confidence into his tone. Relic vessel, this is the Celestial Survey Union. You are being processed for recovery. Comply with all access requests. A pause. 3 seconds. 4. Request denied. Jurisdiction invalid. The engineer with the half-removed plate touches the metal again. A static snap bites his glove. The plate reseats itself with mechanical precision, screws turning back into place as if the ship were inhaling. The dread arrives quietly. They push past it. The lead orders a brute force shell strip. The relay spike generates a harmonic meant to soften alloy bonds for removal. Instead, the ship counters with its own field, equal amplitude, opposite phase. The result is a perfect null. No vibration, no heat bloom, nothing. Impossible, the specialist whispers. His instruments show a conflict pattern that should have melted half the hull. Instead, the relic canceled every joule. A second voice joins the first, older, slower, as though waking through dust. State purpose of intrusion. The lead swallows. Processing and academic salvage. A mechanical hum deepens through the chassis. Something behind the bulkheads begins cycling, low, steady rotations falling into cadence. This vessel is not subject to processing. This vessel is not salvage. A panel near the airlock lights for the first time since the ship's last battle 11,000 years ago. Symbols spill across the dust. Registry signatures, combat postings, a line of jurisdiction markers that have not existed in the Union's legal code for millennia. Designation, human war carrier, sovereign under 5 banners, command chain intact. One researcher whispers the obvious, but humanity is extinct. The ship answers without hesitation. Incorrect. Command authority pending. Standing orders remain. The lead tries one last gambit, transmitting a seizure code normally used for rogue drones. The spike fires it cleanly. The ship swallows it whole. No echo returns. Then the lights along the corridor brighten by precisely 3%, as if the vessel were opening its eyes. Celestial Survey Union, disengage. You lack standing. The 9 researchers back away from the airlock as the realization settles in. The relic has heard every command, evaluated every claim, and accepted none. The ship has declared itself alive and sovereign. They open fire because it is the only language they still believe they speak fluently. 3 Union cutters drift into position, bow emitters angling toward the relic's spine. The lead researcher shouts an evacuation order from the hull, but command ignores him. Doctrine assumes compliance through force. If a derelict refuses processing, disable it. Simple math, clean procedure. The first beam strikes at 0.4 seconds after authorization. White-edged, tuned for precise hull sharing. It should carve a meter-deep trench across antique alloy. Instead, the beam bends. Not visually, not theatrically, its energy signature simply disperses into the armor as if poured into sand. 93%. That is the ship's internal reading. It files the number, notifies no one. The remaining 7% ripples outward as a harmless heat bloom, a rise of 0.09 degrees that vanishes into vacuum. On the cutters, alarms chirp in confusion. The fire control officer widers the beam to brute force a breach. 2 more emitters lock on. 3 lances converge on the relic's dorsal ridge. The researchers on the hull flatten themselves instinctively, waiting for the blast, the shudder, the molten spray. Nothing. Only a quiet absorption, as though the ship were drinking the assault. A standalone line appears on the relic's internal ledger. Inefficient attack detected. The second volley arrives at higher amplitude. Energy pours in at levels that should blister cruiser armor. The relic accepts it. Wave after wave diffuses into the plating, a muted glow sketching along seams, heat blooming outward in a disciplined curve. One researcher dares a whisper, "It's feeding." The ship does not feed, it learns. It catalogs weapon frequency, notes modulation patterns, assesses Union tactical doctrine, and places each entry beside records written 11,000 years earlier. The overlap is pitiful. On the command cutter, a frustrated captain demands escalation. Bring it down, now. But escalation means wide-spectrum emission, dangerously close to forbidden thresholds. They fire anyway, a continuous burn lasting 6 seconds, draining one of the cutter's primary capacitors. The relic's hull drinks 93% again. The heat bloom from the last 7% rolls across the superstructure like a mild exhale. A stinger moment hangs in the comms. Your weapons are obsolete. No bravado, no taunt, only fact. Panic cracks the calm facade of the survey force. The lead researcher pleads for cessation, shouting that the ship is sovereign, that firing risks activating deeper protocols. Command refuses. They tighten formation and angle for simultaneous penetration. 3 ships, 1 synchronized strike. Inside the relic, dormant relay lines flicker. Subsystems test their limbs. Capacitors thrum like distant drums. Not weapons, yet. Merely readiness. A controlled rise. A reminder of things built to endure. The triple strike hits with the force of doctrine and desperation. Energy saturates armor. The relic absorbs it all. For the first time, the Union cutters experience recoil, their own beams reflecting in tactical telemetry as dead signatures, impact values reading 0% effective. A silence follows, the kind bred not from awe, but from recalculation. The ship breaks it. Further aggression will be neutralized. Not a threat, a promise delivered with sovereign indifference. The researchers finally understand the reversal. They came to carve open a corpse. Instead, they have awakened something that does not fear them, does not yield to them, and does not recognize their authority. And the cutters, hovering within range, suddenly feel very small beneath a vessel that treats their best weapons like rain against stone. They feel the shift before they understand it, a subtle tension along the relic's frame, like a muscle deciding to tighten after a long sleep. No alarm sound, no threats broadcast, only a rising hum, deep and steady, threading through the armored bones of the ship. The Union cutters move to reposition, unaware they are already inside a geometry they cannot withstand. Their formation holds a shallow triangle around the relic, optimal for controlled fire, but disastrously tight for sudden maneuvers. Inside the war carrier, an ancient command spine completes a cycle it began 11,000 years ago. Power routing stabilizes, thruster wells prime. A dormant accelerometer lights, checks its calibration, finds it precise to the micro. The ship moves. Not gently, not cautiously. It lunges into motion under a 12G burn, a burst of acceleration so sharp it erases the distance between stillness and decisive intent. The cutters scramble to compensate. Their inertial buffers whine. Their artificial gravity flickers under the strain. Nothing in Union doctrine accounts for a derelict performing a military-grade escape burn. The researcher team clinging to the hull yells into comms, but the ship protects them. Microfield projectors bloom around each suit, holding them against shearing forces with surgical precision. They are passengers now, not participants. The cutters attempt pursuit. Geometry breaks instantly. Their formation shatters. The leading vessel overshoots by 41 meters. The wing ships drift out of alignment by 0.7 seconds of lag. To a civilian force, negligible. To a war carrier, decisive. The relic banks, adjusting angle with a roll that exposes thruster scars older than any empire currently charted on Union maps. A directional burst sends it slicing between the cutters, forcing them to scatter or collide. One nearly clips its partner's bow. Another spins out of combat posture entirely, tumbling while its captain shouts for stabilization. A quiet line appears on the ship's internal ledger. Enemy formation collapsed, threat posture downgraded. It is not gloating, it is assessment. As the ship stabilizes on a new vector, systems deeper within the hull begin to stir. Nerve lines of old human engineering glow, routing power toward cryovaults, sealed since the last battle. Pneumatic locks release with a hiss swallowed by vacuum. Status panels scroll through diagnostics, biointegrity, cognitive imprint stability, archive handshake checks. 1,000 combatants lie in those vaults, preserved like pages of a history book written in flesh and memory. The ship does not yet wake them. It begins the sequence slowly, carefully, warming, not breaching, preparing, not deploying. The researchers sense the shift. Even without visuals, the cadence of machinery tells the truth. This relic was never a museum piece. It was a waiting blade. On the cutters, fear finally fractures protocol. One commander orders a retreat vector, another demands reinforcements, a third hesitates, unable to reconcile doctrine with events. A stinger of a moment lands across every open channel. Reactivation cycle initiated. Stand clear. No malice, no anger, only sovereign directive. The ship holds its new course, thrusters cooling from the 12G surge. Systems thrum, vaults warm. A past built for war takes its first breath, unnoticed by the stars, but impossible for the Union to ignore. The awakening has begun, and the relic is no longer pretending to be silent. The war carrier does not posture, it does not warn. It simply evaluates. Threat vectors, distances, capacitor readiness. 4 weapon arrays sit dormant along its frame, each one a relic of doctrines written in blood and extinction. Only one needs to wake. The Union cutters regroup unevenly, drifting back into an approximation of formation. Their fear broadcasts in jittered course corrections. Hull lights strobe with overcorrection alarms. They still believe they can contain the situation if they strike fast enough, hard enough, decisively enough. Command selects the largest of the 3 cutters, a heavy cruiser retrofitted for salvage security. Its hull plating gleams with fresh welds and proud insignia. Its captain, voice firm despite the quaver beneath, declares the relic hostile. The ship does not acknowledge the classification. It merely records it. A pulse climbs the carrier's spinal capacitor, a rising hum that resonates through beams and joints like memory sharpening itself. One of the 4 weapon arrays stirs. Magnetic rails align. Superconductive conduits snap into readiness after 11,000 years of silence. Power flow, nominal. Target lock, confirmed. Intent, precise. The carrier fires. There is no buildup of menace, no charging halo, no shouted ultimatum, just a single, surgical discharge. A lance of kinetic mass exits the port array at a velocity the cutters cannot track in real time. The round does not glow or roar, it simply leaves. Time to impact, 0.14 seconds. Warnings given, 0. The heavy cruiser never has a chance to evade. The slug pierces the bow shield, skins through deck plating, and exits the aft hull in a perfect straight-line burn. Internal bulkheads vaporize, compartments decompress. Fire blooms in a wave that lasts less than a heartbeat before vacuum steals it away. The cruiser splits along its spine. 2 clean halves drifting apart as though sliced by a scalpel. The carrier does not fire again. 1 shot, 1 kill, sufficient. A moment of pure, cold silence follows. Then the stinger line drops across every open channel. Engagement concluded. Further escalation unnecessary. The remaining cutters reel back, engines flaring in panic. Their captains argue over comms. Retreat, counterattack, surrender. None can process what they've witnessed. A derelict ship performing a flawless kill shot with a weapon system older than their recorded civilization. On the whole, the 9 researchers stare into the drifting halves of the cruiser. One whispers, "That was measured." Another murmurs, "It could have destroyed all 3. The realization spreads like frost. The relic is choosing restraint. Every action, every shot, every maneuver is calibrated, not wild. Controlled violence, not rage. Inside the war carrier, the active array powers down. Capacitors bleed off energy. The array returns to dormancy, status marked, operational. The ship logs the kill, tags the threat level reduction, and resumes its reactivation cycle as though eliminating a cruiser were a minor administrative task. The Union cutters slowly widen distance. Their formation dissolves into survival drift. Any pretense of control is gone. A quiet transmission emanates from the relic, not aimed at the Union, but recorded for its own chain of command, long dormant but never revoked. One hostile neutralized, sovereignty upheld, awaiting further directives. The researchers hear none of the internal dialogue, but they feel its weight. The carrier has acted not out of malice or fear, but obligation. The war it remembers is not over, and it will not permit interference. A channel opens, not wide, not broadcast, but a narrow band directed at the 9 researchers anchored to the hull. No translation header, no threat markings, just a voice shaped by ancient linguistic archives, study, and human. Contact identified. You stand on sovereign ground. State your intent. They freeze. For a moment, none of them speak. Then the lead stammers out the safest answer he can find. Academic salvage, mistaken hostility, desire to disengage. A pause follows, long enough for fear to pool but not spill. Your vessels fired first. Your codes attempted seizure. We responded with minimal force. Minimal. The drifting halves of the destroyed cruiser turn that word into gravity. Yet the voice carries no pride, no anger, only evaluation. The researchers finally dare to ask the question that has been clawing at them since the first awakening. What is this ship? The war carrier answers by revealing its archive. Not visually, no grand projection, but through compressed bursts of data. Battles fought on nameless frontiers, signals scrambled by collapsing stars, clans marked by 5 banners, each carrying its own creed. And interwoven through it all is a principle they struggle to grasp. War memory encoding, the practice of preserving experienced combatants so that their knowledge endures beyond death. The researchers share uncertain glances. The Union forbade such practices millennia ago, too brutal, too consuming. Yet the relic speaks of it as heritage, not horror. Our clans faced extinction. We preserved what we could. Memory, tactics, duty. The body fails. The purpose does not. The lead swallows. But humanity is extinct. A soft exhale of static, almost like breath. Incorrect. We last reported to command 11,000 years ago during the fall of the Outer Reach. No termination order was received, no cessation declared. The weight of that span settles over them. 11 millennia. Entire species have risen and died in less time. Why continue? Another researcher whispers. The carrier answers without hesitation. Because the war did not end. Only our ability to reach it. For the first time, a human presence feels close, not as a ghost or echo, but as disciplined will preserved in metal and memory. The ethos unfurls carefully, deliberately. Violence is a tool. Precision prevents atrocity. Mercy stabilizes victory. We kill only when required. They think of the single shot, the single cruiser gone, the 2 cutters still alive because the vessel chose not to finish them. One of the younger researchers musters courage. Will you kill us? The answer is immediate. No, you are non-combatants. You lacked strategic context. Your lives are not required to uphold sovereignty. A stinger line forms in the researchers' minds even before the ship says it. Power without restraint is not strength. Systems hum deeper inside the carrier as cryovaults continue to warm. The researchers sense the presence of the 1,000 combatants, still dormant, still waiting for a world long past. The Union captains watching from their cutters cannot hear the conversation, but they see the way the relic's posture shifts, less aggressive, more purposeful. The moral frame is unmistakable. This vessel is not a monster, it is a soldier, bound by an ethic forged in collapse and carried across ages. The carrier closes the channel with a final, measured line. We will not harm you, but we will not yield. The relic opens a new channel, this time wider, meant not just for the 9 researchers, but for any Union vessel still within range. No threat pings accompany it, no targeting locks shadow the transmission. Only a line of text appears on every compatible display. Clan banners verified, sovereign authority confirmed, stand by for disclosure. The researchers exchange uneasy looks. Even the cutters, drifting at cautious distance, hesitate to interrupt. 5 sigils bloom into existence across their HUDs. Simple shapes at first glance, but layered with encryption so dense their systems choke attempting to parse it. Each banner flickers with muted color, the pigments preserved from civilizations no longer on any map. Banner 1, a blade split into 4 segments. Banner 2, a closed fist wrapped in comet trails. Banner 3, a spiral of 13 points. Banner 4, an outstretched hand bound in circuitry. Banner 5, a hollow circle encasing a single star. The carrier speaks as they stabilize. These are the 5 clans of continuance, each entrusted with a doctrine, each with sworn purpose. Their encrypted mandates remain active. One researcher whispers the quiet truth. This isn't just a ship, it's a government. The carrier continues, unbothered by the tremor running through its audience. Clan 1, tactical continuity. Clan 2, outer reach defense. Clan 3, strategic logistics. Clan 4, cognitive preservation. Clan 5, ethical adjudication. The last name lands with the force of inevitability. Ethical adjudication, a clan responsible for justice, not war. The lead researcher finally steadies his voice. Why reveal this now? Because sovereignty requires procedure. Because you violated protected space. Because justice supersedes retaliation. They feel the pivot, the movement from battlefield to courtroom, even if no courtroom exists. The carrier shifts internal power routing, not toward weapons, not toward propulsion, but deeper toward an archive node, lit only for one purpose. A warm silver glow pulses once beneath the hull where no living eye can see it. Prepare for extraction. Prisoners will be taken into protective custody. The cutters panic immediately. Commanders shout contradictions. We will not surrender personnel. This entity has no legal standing. All hands prepare countermeasures. The carrier lets them shout. Then it issues a single clarifying line. You are in violation of sovereign territory. Prisoners will be given trial under Clan 5. No harm will come to them. Compliance expected. The researchers look at one another, some terrified, some strangely relieved. A trial is not an execution. A trial suggests rules, fairness, restraint. But restraint backed by a ship that annihilated a cruiser with a single shot still feels like standing before a storm. That chooses not to strike. The airlock beside them warms. Segmented plates retract with hydraulic precision, forming a pulled-lit chamber. Step inside. Protective custody begins. One of the younger researchers hesitates. What if we refuse? The carrier answers with calm finality. Then Clan 5 will classify you as missing context. It will still protect you. A stinger line settles like a seal. Justice does not require consent. The 9 researchers enter, one by one, not forced, not threatened, but ushered into a system older than their species, built on a code they barely understand. Behind them, the chamber seals. Ahead of them, light wells guide them inward. The preparations have begun. Trial awaits. The Union does not accept the inevitability of justice. Not yet. Even with their researchers taken into custody without harm, even after witnessing a single precision kill shot, command reaches for the only answer it has ever trusted: escalation. An assault wing drops out of slip space. 12 ships, fast attack craft arranged in a tightening spear. Their captains bark orders before sensors even finish calibrating. Neutralize the relic. Retrieve survivors. No quarter if resistance persists. The war carrier does not turn toward them. It does not open its weapon arrays. It focuses instead on stabilizing its internal chambers, guiding the 9 researchers toward a safe holding deck. Sovereignty first, protection first, violence only as necessity. But the assault wing commits to aggression before the sentence can be completed. 12 ships light burners, accelerating toward intercept. The relic acknowledges the threat with a single internal note. Domination protocols provisional. No anger, no urgency, just the same surgical calm that has defined every decision so far. A pulse trebles through the ship's armor as dormant filaments awaken. Arrays remain silent. This response does not require them. Auto-defense systems spool into readiness. Systems built not to destroy fleets, but to erase intent. At 0 seconds, the wing locks weapons. At 3 seconds, the carrier maps every vector, every thrust plume, every variance in hull temperature. At 7 seconds, a lattice of predictive trajectories blooms across its internal screens, charting how each ship will move before their pilots even adjust course. At 12 seconds, countermeasures activate. The assault wing reaches weapons range at 18 seconds. By then, the battle is already over. The carrier's auto-defense grid unfolds as shimmering arcs of invisible pressure. Microfield projectors, kinetic shears, directed inertial pulses. They do not fire so much as decide, and space bends to those decisions. The first attack craft buckles instantly, its starboard fins torqued out of alignment by a precisely sculpted inertial surge. It spins away, engines sputtering. The next 3 ships suffer synchronized failures. Navigation arrays blinded by targeted EM spears that fry all non-hardened channels. They drift helplessly, momentum carrying them out of formation. A destroyer attempts to roll and fire simultaneously. The carrier answers with a kinetic counterwave that slaps it downward, cracking its dorsal hull and venting its primary capacitor in a bloom of harmless blue light. 9 seconds into the exchange, the assault wing is no longer a formation, but debris, spirals, and screaming calms. By 18 seconds, the protocol is complete. 67% of the assault wing is neutralized. Not destroyed, neutralized. Crippled, disabled, disarmed. Every killshot opportunity was bypassed. Every lethal vector rerouted into controlled devastation. The carrier broadcasts a single stinger line. Hostile capability removed. Lethal force declined. The remaining 4 ships break instantly, fleeing with all the thrust their engines can muster. Their captains no longer speak of salvage or jurisdiction. Only escape, only survival. Inside the war carrier, the researchers feel the shift through the deck plating, a hum settling, tension easing. Protection completed, the vessel returns to calm. Cryovaults continue warming. Archive nodes continue syncing. Trial protocols continue preparing. The Union, for the first time in its history, understands the scale of what it has provoked. The relic has not fought with cruelty or vengeance. It has fought with discipline. And discipline, wielded with millennia of memory, is domination beyond anything they have ever faced. A wideband channel opens across the battlefield, calm, centered, unmistakably human in cadence, though no living throat speaks it. The Union prepares for a declaration of dominance, a demand for surrender, perhaps even an ultimatum of annihilation. Instead, the relic offers something its leaders never considered possible. Hostilities cease. Sovereign justice will proceed. No further blood is required. The words fall like cold water on overheated systems. In the command chambers of the surviving cutters, captains stare at their displays as if the transmission were a trick of static. The assault wing lies scattered, disabled but alive. The researchers are in protective custody, unharmed. A cruiser is destroyed, yes, but only because it was designated hostile after repeated violations. The pattern is undeniable. The relic is not seeking surrender. It is offering terms. The human voice continues. You trespassed. You attempted seizure. You fired without provocation.
For these actions, you will answer under adjudication protocols. Across Union channels, outrage collides with fear. Political officers shout that the relic has no legal standing. Military leaders argue that negotiation is impossible with a machine wielding ancient authority. But beneath the noise comes a quieter, more devastating realization. The Union citizens will see the feeds. They will watch the battle telemetry. They will see a derelict ship disable an entire assault wing without killing its crews. They will see mercy where their own command offered none. Reparations, trials, no genocide. A moral calculus the Union cannot match. The relic continues, each line measured. Your prisoners will be tried under Clan 5. Charges proportional. Sentences restorative where possible. No execution with absolute necessity. No collective punishment. One admiral recoils. They intend to judge us? Another whispers the deeper threat. If their ethics broadcast system-wide, our authority fractures. Because the relic is not only powerful, it is principled. And principled power exposes corruption with embarrassing clarity. The transmission shifts into a formal cadence, the tone of an officer delivering centuries-old doctrine. Surrender of your remaining forces is not required. Compliance with reparations is. You will return seized data. You will acknowledge violation of sovereign space. You will pay damages proportionate to losses inflicted. A brief pause, just long enough for its weight to settle. We will not pursue you. We will not invade you. We do not seek dominion. The Union command structure fractures along old fault lines. Hardliners demand a renewed strike, but no one volunteers to fly it. Moderates plead for negotiation. Politicians calculate the optics of appearing weak versus being annihilated. All the while, the relic waits with the patience of a civilization that measured time in millennia rather than news cycles. Inside the carrier, the 9 researchers sit in a holding chamber washed in soft amber light. One of them whispers, This is restraint, actual restraint. Another shakes her head. They could have wiped us out, any part of us. They didn't. The war carrier offers one final line to the Union, quiet enough that even its enemies can hear the sincerity behind the steel. We choose mercy. Understand the difference between mercy and surrender. In the silence that follows, the Union glimpses a future it is unprepared for, one where the morality of an ancient human ship weighs heavier than the authority of its Union.
Entire political order. The war carrier settles into stillness. Not triumph, not exhaustion, but the poised silence of something waiting for a signal older than any living nation. Systems cool. Threat matrices wind down. Auto defense grids fold like disciplined wings. The researchers feel the ship exhale, though metal has no breath. Then a tone hums through the hull. Low, resonant, ancient. A single icon blinks alive on the carrier's command spine. Beacon, standby. A protocol untouched for 11,000 years. The 9 researchers glance at each other as the deck lights subtly shift hue, from neutral white to the faintest blue, an operational color they haven't yet seen. They know enough now to recognize the significance. Something foundational is changing. The ship speaks, voice calm as ever. Sovereign status confirmed. Adjudication protocols stable. External verification required. Before anyone can question it, the beacon fires. There is no flash, no explosion, no grand beam of light tearing through the void. Only a pulse, a clean, tight transmission, compressed, layered, encrypted through 5 clans' worth of doctrine. It travels at light speed, then faster through relay nodes humanity once seeded across forgotten regions of space. A line appears on the carrier's internal ledger. Distress call reissued. Cycle count 11,001. The lead researcher whispers, "Who is it calling?" The ship answers without hesitation. All human assets, all allied remnants, all fleets of record. Across the dark spans of interstellar void, 3 distant systems listen.
3 systems that should have been silent, empty, irrelevant. But the beacon reaches them, and old machinery hears its name. In the Osa fringe, a derelict cruiser the size of a city stirs. Its hull, cracked and frost-coated, flickers with intermittent blue light. Deep inside its spine, a core long believed dead hums once, twice, awake. In the halo drift, a chain of autonomous weapons platforms, abandoned during the fall, rotate toward a vector they have not faced in epochs. Their targeting lenses dilate, analyzing space like a predator rediscovering scent. And in the starless gulf beyond mapped charts, a behemoth carrier, larger than any Union vessel ever built, shifts in its dark cradle. Its engines, dormant for millennia, taste power again. A single status line pulses across its ancient bridge. Signal received, return to war directive pending. Back near the war carrier, Union forces watch telemetry in stunned quiet. Their political channels erupt, fear, denial, disbelief. If the relic alone challenged their authority, the awakening of fleets could unmake it entirely. Inside the holding chamber, the researchers sense the shift in the carrier's tone. Not aggression, not anticipation, purpose. One asks softly, "Does this mean war?" The ship considers. When it answers, the words are steady. It means readiness. The conflict we were built for may yet persist. Verification required. The Union commanders argue frantically, whether to flee, to negotiate, to silence the signal. But the choice is no longer theirs alone. History has stirred, and it is older than their empire. A stinger line settles like gravity across every channel. Human fleets returning, prepare for contact. The beacon continues its pulse, measured, patient, unrelenting, calling to warriors who have slept longer than the Union has existed. And in the widening silence between stars, something answers.